My sister decided my marriage was the perfect target for her latest scheme. She pulled off a plan involving fake messages, thinking she'd break us apart. But some of us are smarter than that. Ready to see how her game turned into her own nightmare. I'm Jessica, 27. If life were a movie, my sister Emily, who's 30, would be the drama queen. We're as different as night and day. I'm all about comfort, stability, morning coffee at home, and a relationship I can count on. She's a walking hurricane, thriving on wild parties and endless attention. Emily didn't just enter a room. She took over, like a movie star on a red carpet, even if it was just a family dinner. People adored her, admired her, showered her with praise. And you know what? I never envied her. I had my life, my work, and my perfect husband, Thomas, the man of my dreams. But when Thomas came into my life, something strange started to happen. At first, Emily acted like she was happy for us, but it didn't take long to see through her fake smiles and over-the-top congratulations. Her eyes sparkled with jealousy, not joy. If looks could kill, Thomas would have been ash, and I would have been the charred remains under her heel. It started with little jabs, her specialty. "Jess, are you sure you want your husband so tied to you like a dog?" Or, "Wow, can't believe you two spend so much time together. Thomas probably needs a bit more freedom." I put up with it, trying to ignore her and thinking, it's just Emily. You know, like that one family member who always has to be the center of attention. But then it got worse. She started pulling Thomas into conversations she had no business starting, making sarcastic comments like, "You know, Thomas, your wife's lucky to have you. I wouldn't mind someone so dependable." Right in front of me, without a hint of shame. I mean, really? Who does that? One family dinner, she practically laughed at every joke Thomas made, as if he were the funniest person in the world. I watched her, thinking, "Sweetheart, what are you even trying to do?" It was then I realized her jealousy wasn't just innocent teasing. She was bothered by the fact that I had something she didn't. When Thomas came back from a business trip, something felt off. You know that feeling when someone's physically there but emotionally distant? That's exactly what it was. He was vague in his responses, dodged eye contact, and seemed to be hiding something. At first, I thought he was just tired, but soon I knew it was more. One evening, he finally sat down, looking like he was about to reveal a huge secret. "Jessica," he began, casting a worried glance at me. "Do you know this guy?" He handed me his phone, which showed screenshots of my messages. For a second, I felt dizzy. The messages made it look like I'd been flirting with some random guy, saying things like, "I miss you," and hinting at meetups. I read the lines in shock. Whoever had done this had clearly worked hard to make it look real. Phrases I often used, details about my life, even about Thomas. It was all there, like I had actually written it. I looked up at Thomas. His face held a mixture of hope and disappointment. He wanted to believe it wasn't true, but the messages seemed undeniable. "Are you serious, Thomas?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "You really think I wrote this?" He sighed. "Jess, I don't know what to think. These messages, they sound like you, but I don't want to believe it. Just tell me the truth." I sat there, trying to figure out who could have done something like this. And then it hit me. Who else but Emily knew the details of our lives, our conversations, my little habits? No one but her would think to use that against me. I replayed our recent talks, those times she'd asked about my life. She knew almost everything about us. It all made sense. She was using that knowledge to try and ruin my relationship. One mystery remained, though. Why? Was my own sister so bitterly envious that she'd fake an affair to make Thomas doubt me? The thought made me sick. How low would she stoop, driven by jealousy? But accusing her without proof wouldn't work. Thomas needed to see it for himself. I decided to play my own game in silence. Once I was sure that Emily was behind this nightmare, I needed a careful plan. Just confronting her? Oh, she'd love to turn me into the crazy sister. No, I had to play her game, but smarter. If she wanted to meddle in my marriage using underhanded tricks, I'd give her a little exit strategy she'd never see coming. At the next family gathering, I knew I'd get my chance. As usual, Emily was boasting about her latest accomplishments, throwing occasional fake friendly looks my way. But at one point, she left her phone on the couch and went to the kitchen. My heart pounded. This was it. I had seconds, but sometimes that's all you need. Without wasting time, I grabbed her phone, scrolled to her messages, and to my horror and relief, found exactly what I needed. There was a conversation with her friend detailing her entire plan. How she'd crafted proof of my affair and added little details to make it hard for Thomas to doubt. She literally wrote to her friend, "Imagine his face when he reads it. She'll have no way out." Her words were cold, heartless, and unapologetic. I took screenshots of those messages and sent them to my email. It felt like holding a loaded confession. Once done, I put her phone back, leaving no trace of what I'd done. Game on, Emily. The next day, I set up the final round. I invited Emily over under the pretense of needing help with decor. She loved all things girly. She arrived, practically glowing with satisfaction, thinking her plan was working perfectly. At one point, I casually asked her to fetch some paint from the other room and accidentally left her phone in plain view. I knew Thomas would be too curious to resist. After everything that had happened, he was itching for answers. This risky move was my only chance. When Emily arrived at our place again, I was prepared. I pretended to step out for a minute, leaving her alone with Thomas. Emily, of course, looked her usual polished and confident self, already lounging on the couch, talking to Thomas with her fake cheerfulness and a smile I'd recognize even with my eyes closed. The second I left the room, she turned on her full charm, as if it were her own house and her personal stage. Thomas seemed a bit taken aback, but I knew his curiosity about her phone was strong. The seconds crawled by, but finally, he saw her phone lying beside him and picked it up. This was my victory. When he unlocked the screen and opened her messages, I watched as his expression shifted from shock to disbelief to anger. Each message Emily had sent to her friend was a damning confession of her real intentions toward me and Thomas. Her ugly schemes and shameless cruelty were all there, plain as day. For a few minutes, he just stared at the screen, processing what he'd read, and then looked up at her. "Emily, you really tried to destroy our marriage?" His voice was cold, his expression filled with disgust. Emily's face instantly fell. Her usual confidence drained, and her smile turned into pure panic. She stammered, trying to explain it as just a joke or not what she meant, but her pitiful excuses meant nothing. Thomas didn't want to hear a word. He stood up and walked out of the room, leaving her there. No one wanted to listen, and she had nothing left to say. This moment was her downfall. She sat on our couch alone, amidst the wreckage of her own schemes, realizing for the first time that her game was over. After that incident, my family sided with me completely. Emily tried to mend things, but she had nothing left to offer. She was cut off, isolated. Neither Thomas nor I wanted her back in our lives. Her attempt to ruin our marriage had backfired, leaving her completely alone. And for us, it marked the end of our relationship with her. Forever.